Hi, this is János, it is Real World Audio, and today we are talking about loudspeaker feet, and especially about how you couple your loudspeakers or your loudspeaker stands to your floor. What kind of impact does it have on sound? And for that we will look at Viktor's feedback and what he has experienced when he changed how he couples the feet of his speakers, of the stands, to the floor, and then I will share why is it that he experienced it, what has happened, and what's going on. So let's read it. So what Viktor shared is that today I put on one of my favorite synthwave albums on my turntable. I've listened to the record dozen times over the past year, both with my old Zingali speakers and with my current Blumenhofer speakers. I enjoyed it thoroughly every time I put the album on, singing along, tapping my feet, drumming with my hands, fully immersed in the music, evoking feelings of nostalgia about more innocent times in the past. But today it felt different. Why? Last week I decided to try changing the small floor protectors for the speaker feet for a set of my own homemade feet with more damping material on them, which is an aluminum puck with a thick special dampened rubber mat under. The original floor protectors are just stamped stainless coins with a hole in the middle and a bit of felt on them to protect the floor. So as you see, what he did is that there was something harsher, with little dampening on them, and then he changed it to something of a much softer metal with a lot more dampening. And of course, what we see today is that a lot of folks are advertising to go towards more dampening, and that should technically make the sound more colorless or more neutral. But does it also translate into sounding better? So let's now hear what Viktor has experienced. I've been quite pleased with the way everything sounded so far with my DIY floor protectors, and I have played a dozen different records and genres since the change last weekend, but when listened to this record, the magic was just gone. I'm going to change the felt. Where is that? I have something. Now I have to look on my other monitor because here I'm looking at the screen and it has things over the text and I cannot read the text because OBS Studio is putting special marks over there. So where was it? Change back to the feet to the stock ones tomorrow to re-evaluate, but I suspect my gut feeling here is right. There is some resonance or harmonic that is killed by the new feet, and my ears don't like it, which might sound crazy to a purist. So actually I think there's more complicated things going on, because coupling the loudspeakers to the floor, there is much more going on than just making it more neutral or not. One thing we have to consider is that the loudspeakers are not boxes in a vacuum. It is a very simplistic way that when we look at magazines and advertisements, all of them are telling you that essentially the drivers, here they are, the drivers in the speakers, they are making the sound, and the box is just there to help them to work at their best parameters and my sound might be clipping. So work at their best parameters, and otherwise the engineer's job who's designing the speaker boxes, the cabinets, is to make sure that they do not add any resonances to distort from the purity of the sound. But in my experience, this is absolute bullshit. And that's because the drivers themselves are not good at reproducing bass. And you need the cabinets to aid with that. And when you have a bass reflex loudspeaker, then it's through those ports that the speaker produces the lowest octaves of its capacity. But but also, if you have a live loudspeaker cabinets, which these are, then the cabinet surfaces are also radiators which radiate the lowest octaves. So if you do not just have the drivers transducing the energy to the air, but the cabinets themselves are also transducing energy to the air. Now, most commercial loudspeakers have really badly designed cabinets, and I don't mean that in a disparaging sort of way, but badly designed as regards of being cabinets that can transmit energy which is congruent to what the acoustic energy coming from the source. So I don't know if this made any sense at all. I try to revert it, reframe it. So most commercial loudspeakers, the boxes give a really strong character which takes the sound into a direction that's not congruent with the music, that adds colorations which psychoacoustically mess with your brain and take away from the feeling that you can connect to the music. You cannot connect to the music anymore because there are strong colorations that are not coherent with the flow of the music. And to get rid of that non-coherence, manufacturers put on more damping materials into the cabinets, make it more unable to transmit to the air through the surface, but that is also a compromise which I don't want to get at the moment. I got into that before as well in several of my videos. However, what is important to mention is that either with live cabinets or deadened cabinets, they still have difficulty reproducing faithfully sound waves below 40 Hertz. So below 40 Hertz, it is not just enough to make the air resonate. You also want to couple that energy to the building, to the floor, to your room. And that coupling is done through the feet of the loudspeakers, through the stand of the loudspeakers. And by those feet that you put on those pucks or these little devices that you can put under the feet of the loudspeaker, between the loudspeaker feet and the floor, you will alter how the loudspeaker couples to the floor. And there's no single recipe which is the best coupling device, because it will depend, 1, on your speaker, 2, on your room, what kind of coupling you need to do. Because you might be in a situation that your loudspeaker excites your floor too much. In that case, you want to put those, the ones that Viktor described as his DIY pucks, which have stronger dampening on them, so that the speaker can couple less energy to the floor, so that the floor doesn't get excited that much. Because that will also trigger a lot of the room modes even more, and make a feeling that, okay, the bass is flabby and out of control. In the other hand, if you have a really solid floor, like a stone floor or concrete floor, then you might want to couple the feet more directly to the floor. You might want to even bolt down your speakers so they are like bolted down, maybe like a concrete feet that is continuous with your floor, with your concrete floor. And then you might need that to couple that lowest octave's energy properly to the floor. So it's what I want to say with this really long-winded tirade here is that it's really important how you couple your speakers to the floor, because your floor is also part of the transducer. So first transduction is through the membrane, through the drivers, and that takes care from highest frequencies to upper mid-range, upper bass, mid-bass, and then mid-bass on, it's the loudspeaker cabinet that is the most efficient transducer. It can transduce energy, transmit energy to the room, to the air, much more efficiently than the driver inside, even if it's a 16-inch driver or a 21-inch driver, or you can get the monster Fostex woofer, which is, what is that, like a 30-inch or 40-inch driver. Even in that case, even in that monster woofer case, the cabinet will be a more efficient transducer of the energy inside the cabinet to the air than the moving membrane. And then the lowest frequencies will be most efficiently transduced by your floor, because the surface of the floor is even bigger than the total surface of a loudspeaker cabinet. So the floor is a massive radiator surface, and if you can couple your loudspeaker strongly to it, then that also becomes a transducer for the lowest frequencies. And there the challenge is that you want to couple the lowest frequencies to the floor. You don't want to couple high frequencies, mid frequencies, but don't worry about that. It's just the nature of the floor. It's such a heavy structure that it won't be conducting high frequencies, because you won't be able to make the floor resonate at higher frequencies. So because of the long room dimensions, the long wavelength will be the only ones which will be able to excite the floor. And don't worry, your floor won't be making these large movements, probably just a fraction of a hundredth of a millimeter. Maybe that will be the range that the floor moves, but given the surface area of your whole floor, the energy that's transmitted through it will be absolutely massive. And playing around with that, playing around with how the speakers are coupled to the floor, you can drastically alter how much your room participates in the sound production. And of course, it depends totally on the quality of your room, whether you want it to be part of the reproduction system or not. And my personal experience is, when you want to have the most natural sound reproduction, then you want to couple the floor to your stereo, provided that it is good enough, that it's capable to transmit sound in a positive way. And when you are able to do that, when you can couple your speakers to your room, especially if the speakers can go down to like 20 hertz or maybe 10 hertz, like my voice over Lancelots do, then the experience will be just beyond transformative. So I think, and that's what I noticed with the voice of Lancelots, that the more I disconnected them to the floor, from the floor, then it still sounds good, but it's not a reality transformer. When I remove those layers of dampening between the cabinets and the floor, then it became like a reality transformer. So it's not just sound anymore, but the entire reality changing. And that's not witchcraft, but it's happening because in the case of those speakers, they go down to 10 hertz. And when you have sub 20 hertz frequencies present, that has a total transformational effect on the sound. However, I do not have like a really vast experience with those frequencies, because apart from my system, I never experienced these frequencies on other system at a level that I could investigate it and make further conclusions. In places like movie theaters, where you have technically the ability to go very low, it is still present to some degree, but it's nothing at all like that reality transforming nature. Why is that? I don't know. Maybe some of you have experience with that. You could comment about it. But I really encourage everyone to play around and try out different couplings to your room and just find the balance. What is the optimal ratio? Because there will come an optimal point when you have coupled the speakers to the floor at just the right amount to transmit the energy, so that your room becomes an optimal part of the stereo system. So they are not fighting each other. Because the audiophile mentality is that you have to fight your room with room treatments, everything, and that there's an approach that your room is your enemy. No, your room is not your enemy. It's your best friend, but you have to treat it as such. And you have to explore what your room can do for you, and you have to fine-tune your system to get the most out of your room. And with those treatments, with those additions and changes you add to it or modify it, just get it towards that path that you want to go. And of course, there's like two big paths that you can take, which are diametrically opposite to each other. One of them is that what is known to almost all audiophiles as the only path is to just soundproof and deaden the hell out of your room to make it disappear acoustically. And there's a lot of advice on YouTube, online, everywhere, and that's pretty much all the advice you get, how to achieve that. And that is called as the nirvana of audio. To me, that's, although it's quite fantastic, it's spectacular, but to me that is audio hell. That's the greatest depth of audio hell when you do that, because yes, you get absolutely fantastic, stunning sound, but it sounds so alien, so artificial, that I would never ever do that in my own home. If someone does that and I go and listen, I upload to it and I think, oh, this is amazing, that's fantastic, but do I want this in my home? Not in a million years. Because the experience is so uncomfortable, it makes you feel uncomfortable, it puts you in that hyper state in your brain when you are like super concentrated, like laser focused, and your brain is going at really high intensity, and you get tired after an hour listening to that. And when you have listened to a system like that in an acoustic like that for a couple hours, you come out, you don't even recognize yourself. That alien coldness is in you. It's getting transferred into you, and it just feels weird. There's another aspect, another approach. What you can do with your room is to make your room part of your sound, part of your audio, so that the music you put on, it doesn't sound like it's coming from an alien space that has nothing to do with your surroundings. So there's a total disconnect between what your eyes tell you and what your ears tell you. And I think that's not good. But when you organize it in this other approach, so that you still have your room, but you fine tune it, so that those things which are weaknesses only for your stereo gear, they are not there anymore. But what you hear, the music, it still sounds as if coming from your room, in your room, being there, being present in your room. To me, that is what I like to do, what I want to do, and I have noticed on myself and on others as well who listen to stereo gear, is that when you go towards that approach, that's when you can really relax into the music and connect to the music. Because when you create an artificial sound space, then that's not conducive to relaxation and deep absorption of music. That will put you in that critical listener mode. So I hope this is helpful. And I know I threw out a lot of different things about room acoustics, how it might affect listening, and I like to close it with this, where it is, because Viktor was saying that what he did with these changes, when he put the heavier dampening feed there, is that on most of the music that he played, it was not, the difference was not there. So don't try to think of any of the tweaks or any of the changes you do to your stereo that it's like a yes or no thing. So it's kind of like green light, red light, 0, 1. It's not a binary. It's not a computer. And your brain and your perception doesn't work like your computer. And there, these changes that you induce might be subtle enough so that in a lot of music you don't even notice. But in the case of this music, which Viktor had a really strong emotional connection to, much stronger than any of the other music he listened to, there it was night and day difference. But on those music where he doesn't have this deep connection, it was not noticeable. And a lot of things that I talk about on my channel, and when I say that I think this is the way to go, and when I say this is my way, then most of those tweaks, tricks and modifications and the path to go are focused on what Viktor is reporting with his favorite music. So when you have music that has a special connection with you, using my approach, that connection will be amplified 1,000,000 times. And that's what I'm interested in. When there is magic in the music, there's magic. How do you get the magic from 1 to 1,000,000,000? That's my thing with stereo. That's why I started going into stereo. That's all that I'm interested in. How to make music that has no magic in it sound more illusionary, more vibrant, more dynamic, more whatever, I couldn't care less about any of that, because it's just an illusion. And if it doesn't trigger anything in you, it's just an empty shell. All it will do, if you make the system sound better, is it will be a siren song. It will keep you in chains. It will keep you chained to your audio system, because you are listening to your audio system and not the music. And that's not something you want. It's the exact same as playing computer games. You are doing something and you are enjoying it while you are doing, but it gives you nothing. And so after a while, so how did this impact your life? Oh, it just took away a few years and that's it. But when you have that special connection, that magical link to the songs you love, when you can amplify that, that will have just incredible downstream consequences in your life. That will be totally transformative. And that's when you will say, okay, my audio journey was really worth it. And that was one of the best things I could do. It just changed my life for the better. Because when people just want like better sounding stereo gear that gives a better illusion for those tracks that people generally listen as audiophile race tracks, that's it just keeps you in the surface, and all what I have seen is just it leads to audio burnout. So that's when you just get bored of your stuff. And I think those of you who don't know this expression, that like audiophile burnout, it's very important to know, because that's what happens to almost all audiophiles, that they go through like 10, 20, 30 years, 40 years of perfecting their audio system and putting in like insane amount of money, like 2, 3, 4 times as much as they spent on their cars. And then they say, okay, I'm now bored with it. And then they sell it or give it away, and they just maybe get like a Bose Wave radio or something like that. Oh, now I'm enjoying music, wow. But now I got rid of the stereo. Or maybe they get like a Dynaco Stereo 70 or something, or an Echo. That's the oldest story in the book, that people give away their $1 million solid state driven high current loudspeakers that just throw this crazy sound that people dream of. But when you own that, you listen to that for a while, you just get so numb to it, so jaded, that people just give it away and get a Stereo 70 or an Echo, and they also give away their audiophile collections, and they just start listening the music that they loved before they ever got into this monkey wheel, and just put on those songs and wow, this sounds great. Because don't forget, that's why all of us start getting into audio, because you have music you love and you want to experience it deeper. But where the audio gear takes you, where the mainstream audio gear takes you, is to go towards select special recordings at extreme costs and extreme, extremes played on extreme systems. And when you want to play your favorite music on these systems, it sounds horrible. And it's not because your music is horrible. It's because it's going in a direction which is not focused on where you want it to go in the first place. So that's my video for today. I hope it will be quite thought-provoking, and just put down your thoughts in the comments. And thank you, Viktor, for your awesome comment. Bye bye.